This is Dave, and today's big hairy idea is how can we make the complex simple? So last night we had a fun evening. We had some of our relatives over for dinner. We have a couple of nephews and a couple of cousins who happen to be in Jerusalem at the moment. And so we had two of them over for dinner, and there's one of them was getting his undergraduate degree and one is getting a master's degree. And after dinner, Hannah says, let's play Cash Flow. Cash Flow is a game created by Robert Kiyosaki, the guy who wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which is, for my money, probably the best financial book that's come out thus far, though keep your eyes out for one that's coming out this coming fall that I'm hoping will surpass it. But thus far, for the books that are out there, I think Rich Dad, Poor Dad teaches, to me, the most valuable financial lessons of any book that I've come across. But what I love about it is he created a game to teach a lot of these principles, this idea of financial independence, to show that not all money is created equal. And we start playing this game, and first of all, one thing that sets this game apart from just about any other one that I've ever played is that we're all given roles, and our roles are not equal to one another. So one person might be a doctor who's making a tremendous amount of money, but also owes a lot, has a nice house, has a nice car, and therefore has a lot of money coming in and a lot of money going out. Another player is a janitor who doesn't have so much coming in, but also doesn't have as much going out. And so the overall picture, you start to see that it doesn't really matter what my position in life is, whether I'm a doctor or I'm the janitor, you can get through the game, you can get to the place of financial independence, which is what this game is teaching. And we go through, and I see, this cousin and this nephew, they're going through and they're filling out the scorecards. Every time we're doing a new transaction, every time something new happens in the game, you fill out these scorecards of keeping track of your money. And what's funny about these scorecards is that they're exactly modeled upon real accounting documents. So he's not just trying to have you have a fun game and teach you some basic things. He's having you go through and actually fill out the types of documents that I need in my business. And most of us just never seen before. We need them. So here we got people in college and graduate school. They've never seen forms like this, as far as I know. And they needed a little bit of time to figure out how to do it all, which was great because just figuring out how to keep score in the game already was teaching them skills they're going to need 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line, whatever it is. Once they start actually dealing with their accounting, they're going to need to know these things. So already the game is teaching you how to do these different principles. And it was really amazing watching these two playing the game. Myself, Hannah, and Ari Lev, we've played this game a bunch of times. We're really familiar with the strategies and all the different things you can do with it. But for them, it was new, and it was fun seeing the game through their eyes and seeing them approaching financial principles like this idea of financial independence. Now, what is financial independence? This is something we've talked about before, but there's two phases of this game, the cash flow game. One is what you call the rat race, and you just keep going around in a circle, and the other one is the fast track. And it's basically two different realms of financial levels. And when you're in the rat race, as long as your cost of living are greater than your passive income. So this is a really key aspect of the game. Passive income is income you don't have to go out there and work for. So if you have a rental property and you don't really need to check in so much, our landlords, don't have to, we talk to them once every few months, but they don't have to come and check out the apartment. They haven't had to get new tenants for years. It's a fairly passive income for them. They just get money from us every month. So forming passive incomes, and then there's your active income, your job, the thing you actually do with all of your time, you got to dump into it. So as long as your expenses require you to have a job, you're kind of in that rat race. You're going around and round because the minute you stop working and there's a little square that if you land on it, like you get downsized and oh no, you lose your job for a couple of turns and suddenly you're still paying your rent, you're still paying your expenses, but suddenly you have no money coming in. You're in that stuck point. But once your passive income comes up to and exceeds your cost of living, well then you really have that financial freedom. Then you can work if you want to, but you don't have to work if you don't have to. And what I love is just how this principle of financial independence, which is a core aspect that we teach in the book we're working on right now, and a core aspect that I think of really financial viability, when people get this whole point of financial independence and they're able to work towards that they've taken it, just made it into a board game. And by making it into a board game, it's fun and it's engaging, and the ideas just get drilled in very, very clearly and very simply. And I think this is something I've definitely been wanting to work towards in my life and my career is how can I figure out how to take complex ideas and make them simple? When I was in academic environments, it seemed like I was in law school and people would go through, and there's sometimes my law professors would be people who never actually really practiced law. There were people who went through school and they started writing articles, and they were in the law review, which is the big publication about law, and they to be at a strong law school like the one I was going at, it's not so much based upon how good you are as a teacher. It's more based upon, well, what are your publications? Do you have a lot of really high caliber academic ideas that have been out there in these prestigious legal publications? And these publications are read by a very small number of people, and they tend to be at a pretty high level of sophistication, the level of talking that they do. And it's like there are certain areas of life, like that law school environment, which kind of glorifies taking ideas and putting them in a very complex, hard to understand, only kind of for those who want to delve into that very academic way of thinking, a very small segment of the populace. And that was considered to be a really positive, writing something that is just very well received among a tiny percentage of the populace who's reading it, but kind of inaccessible to most of us. And this is the opposite. And this is really what I'm passionate about, is how can we take these big ideas and really bring them down, make them so accessible. And that's what a book like The Size of Your Dreams attempts to do. And that's what I think Kiyosaki did fabulously in this board game, Cash Flow. And to me, it's just something I always want to be thinking about. When I'm looking at different ideas, it's not, can I put this in a way that makes me look smart? Can I give this over with a lot of big words and in a way that sounds very sophisticated? It's no. How can I explain this so that a 6-year-old gets it? How can I explain it that a 4-year-old gets it? How can I explain it so that everybody who hears it immediately says, okay, that's what I should be doing. Oh, that makes sense now. And that's a totally different goal than those kind of law school publications were really, really going after. But that's, to me, it was just a great example of, wow, here's a tool to make things really easy. And I've been wondering that myself. I've been wondering, what are some board games that I can create, or other techniques, other things beyond my books that I can use to make big ideas, important ideas that people need to be able to implement in their own lives, but take them from being intimidating and up here to being very easy to comprehend and down here, and very pragmatic, very accessible, very easy to enter into. So good job, Robert Kiyosaki, in that game. And it's something I want to be learning from and figuring out how I can be giving out these ideas more powerfully. But I want to leave you with that question. Like, what are some ideas that are very important to you to get across to others? Do you ever look at them and say, wow, you know what? The language I'm using is sophisticated. It might be hard to understand. The techniques I'm using, the way I'm giving them across isn't so accessible. How can I make it more accessible? How can I make it easier to understand and easier to access and much broader in its appeal? Take care.